crowd goes wild, the vibrancy of Joburg, the people come from all over the place, from Soweto, from Pinfield, from all the way from the north, coming together to support our world stage stadium.
Recently, the City of Johannesburg hosted a trade delegation from the United States at the Apartheid Museum, just south of the city. The delegation from Atlanta, Georgia, was led by Atlanta's Mayor, Kasim, together with United States Ambassador to South Africa, Patrick Gaspard.
The last time I saw Mayor Reid, he had just won the elections with a decisive victory. So I said, well, you know, Mayor Reid, you need to rub that off because next year I'm going to an election. So you need to give me a bit of what inspired, was it 67%?
84.
84%. Brilliant.
This visit means even more to me, Mr. Premier, because when I was a younger man on the campus of Howard University, during President Mandela's visit to the United States, still a student at Howard, we bestowed an honorary degree to President Mandela, but that wasn't the part that was so amazing. What was amazing was we had a private reception prior to his speech at Howard. And I remember he had on two of the most beautiful diamond cufflinks. I can't express how big these diamonds were. And the gift from the university were cufflinks of the Howard University seal. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He so elegantly removed his own cufflinks and gave them to the person who was with him and immediately put on the Howard University cufflinks before he gave his talk. And I only had a few minutes with him, but I thought with grace. And I remember at that moment that one day I would come to Johannesburg. And so this is my first trip to Johannesburg, but it won't be my last. And so as I stand on this stage in this incredible building, what I know is where that grace came from, where that moment came from. And so what I'm here to do today is to just offer a hand of friendship. I look at the distance that Mayor Parks Tau is bringing Johannesburg. And I look at the distance that Premier Makura is bringing this province. There's another man that did something like that. His name's Ambassador Young.
A key figure in the delegation was United States Ambassador Andrew Young, a civil rights activist who worked with Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s and went on to become a member of Congress, mayor of Atlanta, and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
The importance of this visit is that it brings two great economies together. The South African economy is a great economy. The economy of Atlanta, Georgia is a great economy. Our mayor and your mayor are about the same age. They have the same burdens. Atlanta has all the problems that Johannesburg has. We've had a little more money and a lot more time to deal with them. So we have a lot to learn from each other. But we have we have a lot to learn from South Africa too. And I just know the courage, the determination, and the faith of a strong people that are willing to risk their lives for what's right, and do it without hating, and do it without blaming anybody, but saying, look, this is the world in which we found it, the way we found it. We've got to come together and make it better. Better not for ourselves, but better not just for our children, but for all children.
In terms of investment, what are you bringing?
Well, you know, right now we're just building relationships. But I was in charge of a $100 million fund that Madiba and Bill Clinton asked me to chair. And we found that a little money in the right place at the right time can go a long way. So we invested that money throughout Southern Africa. And we weren't trying to make money on it. We were trying simply to get some good businesses started. And some good businesses are working pretty well.
What makes the city of Joburg attractive as an investment destination given the weaker investment outlook for the country as a whole?
Well, no, the weak investment outlook is statisticians. They talked about our airport when I was mayor. They said we couldn't, they spent $400,000 doing a feasibility study and said we could not afford an international airport. It wouldn't pay for itself and nobody was interested. And I said, go to hell. And we built it, see? And now we have 100 million passengers last year. And that airport made $38 billion and created 400,000 jobs. Now the experts said it couldn't be done, but we have done it.
Atlanta has major multinational companies that are already doing significant business with the Gauteng region, such as Coca-Cola and UPS.
Obviously, when I speak, I always add other parts of the province, which I will not do today. Today, the city of Johannesburg is the only place. Because if all the business people who are here were to invest in the city of Johannesburg, substantially you have invested in our province. You saw the figures there. Our province is a significant economic player in our country. We contribute more than 35% to South Africa's GDP. If we were to borrow Ravi's comparison, if we were a country, we will be the 6th biggest economy in Africa.
The US delegation will also be bringing various other Atlanta-based businesses seeking opportunities here. Gauteng metros such as Ekurhuleni have existing memorandums of understanding with Atlanta, and this mission incorporates discussions with other Gauteng metros, including Johannesburg, in this drive to secure mutually beneficial partnerships between the two regions.
The US is one of our most important partners, mainly because they are very much into technology, which for Johannesburg is our main thing. And so we've had delegations going to New York, which is our partner city. And so if you look at our software precinct in Braamfontein, which the City of Johannesburg does with the University of Witwatersrand, we've got over R1 billion of investment from the US. Johannesburg is fast-tracking large investments. So any investment over R1 billion goes into a special process where we look at making sure decisions happen much faster. So we understand that big investors' time is money, and particularly things with lots of jobs at stake. So we put it through a fast-track process. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is we're working a lot with the private sector in Johannesburg. So that's why the South African Chamber of Commerce and the Joburg Chamber of Commerce were here today, their presidents. We're working very closely on how the city, the private sector and universities, because the technology side, collaborate a lot. So that's where a lot of the technology and innovation programs are coming from. And the third and final thing is, we know people come to Johannesburg for work, for entrepreneurship, not just for holidays or swimming in the warm water. So a lot of it is on the entrepreneurship development program. So we run the most comprehensive SME programs of any city in the country. So those are major programs. We are paying a lot of attention now to the quality of services, and we've taken some key services business needs, things like connection to electricity, time to get certain permits approved and so on, and we're putting that on a process to make sure we meet and exceed the benchmark of all our peer cities over the next 5 years. You have to know who you're competing with, and Johannesburg is a global city. So we represent South Africa. So when we're out there in the world, we are competing with Copenhagen, Sao Paulo, Nairobi, New York. So we look at where are they, what can we learn from them. Of course, in some cases, Johannesburg is number one. But in other cases where we are behind, we have to say, what are they doing that we can learn from? So it's really benchmarking ourselves against our main competitors and then putting our programs to work to meet those benchmarks. Talking about the pressures, so the whole country is looking at investment grades and downgrades and junk status and what. Johannesburg in December got upgraded by Fitch to AA based on its bonds and its strength of reserves, and so Johannesburg is trying to push in the other direction. So it's the one that's been upgraded. So, it's more of that, how we can, with the province and the country, look at, how we promote each other, because in the end, Johannesburg is the same as a sovereign. When Johannesburg does well, South Africa does well. If South Africa does badly, Johannesburg takes a fall as everyone else. So it's really Team South Africa and Johannesburg's role in that, and how we work with the rest of the role players for the country. It's important for us to have a good relationship with democracies that, like the US, which are interested in things we are interested in. So we're on a very good footing. It's a very important partner, and more technology transfers, more companies from the US coming here, more South African companies going there. The more cross-pollination we have, the better, because South Africa and Johannesburg, we are a global country, this is a global city. So the more we globalize, the better. So and technology is the cutting edge of whether you're manufacturing or services. It's all tech. So we think the US is a strategic partner, and Atlanta, of course, given its history and racial politics and demography, or demographics, is very close to Johannesburg. So we have a good relationship, and you got the mayor and the former mayor of Atlanta here, and I think there's a natural affinity between the cities, which they brought a good delegation as well.